look at your sheet on your, I think it's the top one. It says, list the top 5 requirements of your home. I pulled 2 of these out. If I got 2 people or 3 people or 1 person, I get 1 out. And I told them, I said, okay, it's really kind of an icebreaker to them. When they sit down, I say, first thing I do when they come in, we sit down and greeting and all that, we sit down at the desk. I say, okay, before we start, I need to have a picture ID, I need your legal names, and I need your emails. And then they'll say, oh, okay, and they start digging and get it all out and stuff. And I have a little piece of paper there for them to write it on. And then I said, well, then we have a test. And the look on their face is like priceless, like, oh my goodness, got to have a test. I said, no grade, you can't pass or fail. The only thing about it, why I call it a test, is you can't cheat on each other and you can't copy each other's answers. I give 1 to each party. And I tell them, I said, the reason I do this, and I want you to put your name at the top, you know, like we did in school, so I know who it is. I said, I don't share it with each other unless you want me to. I give 1 to the husband or 1 to the woman. And I say, I want you to put what you want in a house. You don't have to be 5. It can be 1 thing on each deal. But I don't want you to put what he thinks. And then I tell him the same thing. And I usually tell him, I said, okay, no cheating, no copying. You go sit over there and you sit over here. While you're doing that, I'm going to set your file up. So while they're doing this and they start talking and looking at each other, I said, no cheating, because I'm kind of watching them. And I go into Dotloop, I set up a file for them. I go ahead and put their names, their emails in, and why we want the legal name. Anybody tell me why we want their legal name? Any idea? Because when you start writing paperwork, you need to write their legal name. If they go by, you know, Steve, do they legal name Stephen? And how is it spelled? Do they use a middle initial? Because if you do that in your paperwork from the first moment all the way through closing, we won't have the problem that we can come up with. People do go by nicknames a lot. So, you know, like Bob is actually Robert a lot of times. So, but on legal documents, it's Robert. So you need to know that. And so I would go that, and I get that, and I set that up while they're filling out their little test. And it's always been a nice icebreaker for us, because we always laugh about, yeah, it's a test, you can't cheat on each other, and that kind of stuff. It seems to do well. I've had anybody that, you know, really has a problem with it. So this is just something I use to start with, and why I do that is because I look at it afterwards, and as we're out looking at property, I can, if she is really wanting a big kitchen, and we're out looking at a home, and this home has an awesome kitchen, I'll be going, Jane, come here, look at this kitchen. You know, because I know from my sheet, that's a big deal to her. Or if he says, he wants a big garage or and we go out and we open the garage door and it's an oversized 2-car. John, get over here and look. This is a great garage. I think you'll like it. And they know that you're listening to them. No, you're reading from what they're telling you. But it also, I get kind of tickled at how different they are sometimes and then how much they're alike. So that it's a cheat sheet for you is what it is. Then after they leave, I scan this up and put it in my Dotloop so it's in my note file. I have a note folder in Dotloop that I put this kind of stuff in. And I take a copy of their driver's license, load that into Dotloop. So I have their driver's license and stuff in there. And then I put my little contact sheet I had with their names and all their stuff, scan that in and put that in my Dotloop file. So I always have their name, address, phone numbers, and all that stuff together. And I can easily access it. That's the purpose in this, and it kind of gives an icebreaker. And it also gives me time while they're doing this to set their file up. I haven't had any problem with anybody giving me their legal name, their email, and a picture ID. Some people say, oh, I just don't know if I can do that. We just set it down. This is just like it's no big deal. This is how we do it. And in the front, it says that we have to have ID anyway. So that's kind of how I start my process after I've greeted them. I have a little fridge in my office, so you can get some, or you can get some, buy something from the front, or put some up front with your name on them. They have a little fridge in the front up there by Sally's desk. I offer them both a bottle of water, so that they can sit there and have something in their hand. Those are just some of my little starter things that I do. Any questions on that? No? Okay. This is the actual presentation that I do use. And on this one, of course, it's me. A lot of y'all don't know who actually works with me, but Kathy Smithson works with me. Barabee and Tanya. You'll probably never see Tanya. She's a true ninja. She's never in here hardly, but she sells real estate. So. And on those pages there for you that don't have a team per se, you just go in there and put a little bit more about yourself. And it can be about yourself, not how wonderful I am, how much I produce, how many sales I've had. They don't want to know that pretty much. I put in there a little bit more personal, things I enjoy to do, things I've been involved in, things I like. I put some information about my kids on certain things before I had a team. Now I just mentioned the team. But you have other deals, and you can also use a deal that your team is, Bob, Jeremy, Lucky, Valerie. Those are part of your team. Those are our management team. They're actually our backing here. So if you need to, you can use them, as these are other people that work with me. If you team up with another agent, you can do that too in your presentations. That if I'm unavailable, this person can help you out. She's my backup person. So you can do that just to make it look a little bit more like this. You need to have a mission statement. Everybody, it's kind of depends on your client. Some clients are just really enthused about this, and others care less. So you kind of learn your personalities very quickly of your client as best you can. Exit does have classes on that, on how to read personalities. It depends on how long you stay on each slide. So kind of read that with whichever client you've got. A lot of people want to know what kind of charities that you do and work and all that. Everybody on my team is either given money or worked some of these charities. I have 2 pages of them. And we add to the list annually. Depending on the client and how long you'd stay on those pages. Then I have information about Exit Realty Bob Lamb, a little bit about us, tell them a little bit about our company, brag about us being the highest grossing Exit U.S. office in 2012, 13, and 14, and we were beat out 15 by a single office that has 300 agents in the Washington, D.C. area. There was no way. So it would be tough to beat that group. We're going to try though this year. Now let's talk a little bit about Exit Realty Corporation International, that we are a franchise that started in Canada in 1996, so we're still a fairly new franchise, but yet we're taking over. So this is where I get in. What we do is we add value. We have a new economy. I help them provide a service. You do have handouts, I think, that has this on there. I try to make sure that I tell them that you're going to be taken care of. You always can call me. I want you to feel good about what I'm doing. I try to eliminate as many surprises. That's why we're here today, is to help eliminate some of our surprises. Source of knowledge. You are going into, as a home buyer, they're going into I'm having a hard time switching from you guys being they're going into an area, and a lot of these are first-time home buyers. Some haven't bought a home in 10 years, 5 years, 20 years. And what little bit we've been in the real estate, real estate changes quarterly, almost. So things keep changing. So we have to kind of help them. I said, I'm going to help interpret what's going on. And I always tell them, you can always ask me a question. Don't feel that you're bothering me. Sometimes they are, but I don't want them to feel that they are bothering me. I said, call me, text me, email me your questions when you have one. If it pops in your head, text me or something. I said, as soon as I'm done with whatever I'm in the middle of, I'll try to answer your question. Then I also tell them I try to help them, coach them through the decisions as we go through this process of what we feel your options are. Upstreaming, if I don't know everything. I'm not an appraiser. I know a lot about appraisals. I'm not one. I'm not a surveyor. I can see property lines, but I'm not an expert. I couldn't tell you if that's truly the right one. but I have people. I said, I can always get a hold of my people. Give you the number of my people. I got people. And so they're always like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So this one here will be real important for you guys to kind of understand, to be able to interpret for them. There are different kinds of agents. I always go into a couple of things I go into. There are agents, there's real estate agents. They are licensed by the state of Tennessee, just like I am. And then there are realtors. Realtors, we go to a higher standard. We have more classes. We have more continuing education. We pay more fees. You know, we believe in our business. We want to be at a higher help at a higher standard. Being a realtor or a real estate agent one, you can represent a buyer, a seller, or just the transaction in itself. I usually always represent one party or the other. Very rarely do I go to that neutral stand. It kind of is a special situation that you do that. There is classes, we have classes here about different types of agency for you guys. But I always tell my client, I'm going to be your agent. And as your agent, as a real estate agent, not being your agent under contract with you, I can show you properties. I can explain a form to you. I can submit offers. I can disclose it. If I know it's a problem with the property, I can do it. I can monitor the closing and times and try to coordinate that as just a real estate agent or a realtor. But if you become a customer where you're under contract with me, I can do everything over there, and then you're going to an agency agreement with me. I can help share some good lenders. They're not going to take advantage of you. They're not going to overcharge you. I can search properties that are available. I can also show for sale-by owners to you and represent you in the transaction. I can locate properties, point out the strengths and the weaknesses of those properties, such as, say you looked at two properties, one over here and one over here. You're like, man, Annette, I really like both of them. Which one would be my better deal? Well, if I was your agent with agency, I can run a report. What has this neighborhood been doing for the last 5 years? The values, are they going up, stable, or going down? This one over here, do the same. This one here, they've been kind of stable or dropping. This one here has been climbing. Now, which one do you think you need to buy? They always go over here. As your agent, I can do those kind of things. Just as a realtor or real estate agent, not under contract with you, I can't do that for you. You'd have to research that yourself. So that kind of gives them why we want to be under contract with them. I also can help you consult on what to offer on a property. Counter offers, how to negotiate. You know, a lot of times someone will say, well, they paid blah, 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 blah. Well, it doesn't matter what they paid. It's what is the market going to pull right now. But what it shows me, if I show that they paid $100,000 for it, they got this for $250. The market holds it, it would be for $250. But if I need some closing costs or I need something, I know they've got room to be able to do that. But if they paid $240 for it and they got it priced at $250, there is no negotiating room, and I know that's going in. So why waste everybody's time? Either we can offer it or not. So that kind of, I can do that for that client if I am under contract with them. Everything, also I can, with their permission, we have a little form that they sign that gives you permission to look over that closing statement before everybody signs it. It starts that 3-day window before closing. You can look it over and see if you see anything that's incorrect. And I always give examples. You know, I've had it where the title or the lender didn't get the last counter and didn't see that now the seller is going to pay $3,000 in closing costs. It's not on any of the HUDs. Guess what? I'm going to notice that, and I'm going to get taken care of before everybody starts that 3-day clock. So those are things that I can do for you. Everything that they I always tell them, I said, everything that you tell me, I have to keep confidential during this process unless you tell me to tell the seller or the other agent. And I hold that very dear to my heart to keep that private. Someone goes, well, what would that be? And I said, well, for instance, Say you qualified for a $300,000 home, and we're making an offer on a $125,000 home. They don't need to know you qualified for $300,000. According to the way I'm going to present it, is you can only do $125,000 is the way I'm going to present it to that listing agent. They don't need to know that. So those kind of things, I've had clients that were moving here to take over a company. They didn't want them to know what they're doing coming here, or that they were just moving here to move here, or where they're going to be working, or anything. I had to hold it confidential because they didn't know what employees they were keeping and what ones they were going to get rid of. And they were scared if word got out around town that the company's being taken over, all the good ones are going to run. And they'd be left with the ones they didn't really want. So I've had where a church had elected somebody, the church board had put someone in over the choir and it's a choir or the youth department, it's been several years ago. And I couldn't disclose why the guy was moving here because the church hadn't been notified it's going to be like that weekend that they were going to notify the church that this was the new person. But they already, where they were here and they were voted on and everything, they wanted to go ahead and, they told me they could go ahead and look for some homes. And they got connected with me and they told me this. So I had to write that out and I put it on the buyer's agency agreement that I could not disclose why they were moving here. So there are times, you know, that these things, you have things that's confidential. You don't tell them. I can run, I just mentioned I can run that current market analysis on the properties they want, if we're kind of torn between two. Advise them on the offers. I can assist on closing company. I don't make the final decision. You do, the client does. I usually close at Memorial Title because it's very convenient. It's easy for them to find because it's just down the street here. I help them discuss maybe property inspections, what might need to be done for, what inspections should they consider to do on this particular property, because that varies from property to property. If you got a home in the city, why would you need a septic inspection? You know, if the home is brand new construction, you still need a home inspection, but you won't need an extra heat and air inspector, or probably an extra roofing inspector. You just want a basic inspection. So it kind of depends on the property. As their agent, you can advise them on what inspections they ought to have. I help make necessary inspection, property inspections. I make the buyer. I tell them, I say, you will be the one setting up the inspections. You tell me the date. It's my job to get the seller and the listing agent to get those people in there at that time. I tell them, I don't want you to be rushed. Most companies and salespeople are trained. Bam, bam, bam. You see the TV shows. You're going to look at 3 and you're going to buy one of these because these are the best 3 out there. Well, some personalities would have a complete meltdown if you pick 3 and they had to choose from one. Other personality, your D personality says, hey, yeah, you show me the top 3 and I'll give you which one I want, because that's their personality. So I tell them, I said, you're not going to be rushed. You are in control of how many homes we do see. Now, I tell them, I said, now occasionally you will tell me we're out showing property. You go, Annette, I do not like this neighborhood. Okay, I'll make a note of that. And they'll see this house online. Oh, Annette, this is just the greatest thing. I said, that's in that neighborhood you said you didn't want to look in. You still want to look in it? No. Thank you. I didn't realize it was in that neighborhood. That must be the best looking thing in the neighborhood. And I said, could be. So, I just tell them, don't be rushed. Let's look at everything that's out there and we'll consider it. If you still decide, and I tell you, hey, that's that area or that neighborhood you said you did not like, you still want to see it? Oh man, I think I still do. Okay, but guess what? When we get out there, guys, they don't like it because they don't like the neighborhood. They love the house, but I just don't like this neighborhood. I told you, but you don't want to do that to them. I treat them fairly. I just want them to feel like they're being serviced and I'm listening to them. Some of the surveys that you see on the National Association of Realtors surveys and other public surveys, you see one of the biggest complaint, no one calls it back. Second complaint is their agent never listened to what I wanted. If you're a client, and I've had this happen, say, Annette, I don't want, I mean, I know they qualify for more. I don't want to look at absolutely nothing over 150,000. And if it doesn't have at least a one-car garage, don't even send it to me. And then guess what? They're online, and they send me something that's 160,000 with no garage, no yard, and I'm going, okay, we can go. I can schedule it, but you know that doesn't have a garage. And it's 10,000 over what you said you didn't really want to go over. Yeah, but I saw it online and it just really, I think I can deal with it. I'm like, okay, we'll go look at it. And we said that we're going to look at it. We end up buying it a lot of times. So just, you know, as an agent, just be careful with, you know, making sure they feel like you're listening to them, even though sometimes they're not listening to themselves. So, but if they also say, they only want to go up to 160,000, but they qualify for 3. Don't send them $200,000 homes, because then they're allowed to say, well, I told her I didn't want to go more than 160. Why is she sending me these $200,000 homes? So beware like that. Not that they won't bring you one of them, but on your things that you send them. Now, if there's something you saw somewhere when you're searching for somebody else and it's 165 or 170,000, and you're thinking, oh, the Johnsons would really, really like this house, and I know it's over that 160. I call them and go, or shoot an email to them and say, I know this one's more than what you were saying, but it's got every single thing you were asking for in the neighborhood that you were wanting. I thought I better at least tell you about it. No problem. I don't want to pressure you to go over your 160, but I just thought of you when I saw it. They appreciate the fact that you acknowledged that you knew what you sent them was a little bit more. So when you get to those, sending those out. That's how it's done. So you tell me what you want, you tell me what you want to pay, and we select the near perfect home you want. I'll show you everything that they want to see. I always tell them, I said, you know, that perfect home that's the most perfect, everything's perfect, 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 does not exist. You can build it from scratch in the perfect spot, and you get it up, and you look around, and you live in it a little bit, and you go, man, I just really don't like this. I know, I've done this 3 times, and there's always something that you don't do that you didn't think was important that now you do. But what we do is we try to find them something that is the near perfect, and that's another goes back to my little list of what they think is perfect, and get it as close as we can. All of us, you know, we love $1 million home for a $100,000 budget. I wish we could do that. If we could do that, we would be miracle workers, but that doesn't exist. So what we're going to do is find the best home in the price they're willing to pay that's out there right now and try to get it for them. Then I go into the process. 1 and 2 get flip-flopped a lot. A lot of people have already met with a loan officer, which is the correct way to do it. I won't tell them that. I usually just go, hey, you know, 1 and 2 can go either way. If you do 2 first, you're going to go back and do 1 and then come back and do 2 again. So I just tell them, I said, they can be flip-flopped. It's okay to flip-flop them. At least you've not down in 4 or 5 and then trying to go back and do 1 and 2. You know, all the deals talk about get your cart before a horse. This is kind of the same deal. You hear about all the horror stories about buying a home and how things went bad. Sometimes it's because people took them out of order of how the process works. So I told them, I said, since we're here and you've not met with a loan officer, we're going to cover that in a minute. We're going to set you an appointment with a loan officer before we leave today. We're going to get you set up an appointment and get talked to one before we leave today. And they go, oh, okay. I said, and then once you're done with your loan officer, then we're going to meet back. We're going to sit here and we're going to start the process. So I said, there's a lot of reasons why we do that. And I'll explain that later, why you need to go to your loan officer. Then when we meet back, we identify the homes that fit the criteria that they're wanting and the price point that they want. We view the homes, depending on what price range and what market they're in. If they're looking in McMinnville, they can do some drive-bys, and then we can schedule time. If it's in Murfreesboro, if you see some on the computer today, we better go out and look at them today because they're not going to be there tomorrow. If you're under 300,000, so kind of you have to play that kind of by what are your buyers looking at, and what market are they going to be looking in? Because every market is a little. Davidson County's different, Rutherford's different, Wilson's different, Cannon's different, Bedford's different. Warren County, I'm working in Warren County right now with a client. Totally different. I mean, if the house is on the market, it's got to be on the market 6 months before anybody even thinks about buying it down there. So it's a different market. So you've just got to learn kind of your market of what your client is to know kind of what you're going to do if you're going to select homes and view homes in the same day or not. We make an offer, we negotiate the contract, we do earnest money deposit, which I'll explain in a minute, inspections, which I'll explain in a minute, the appraisal, I'll explain in a minute, then we go to closing and possession, and I'll explain the rest of this in detail. This one's a real important one. I've got a handout for it. One of your handout packets has got the list. There's an action. I go over it on here, but I hand them the written one so they can kind of, and they make notes beside it. There should be one in there. In the handout, yeah. It's here. It's somewhere in there. There's a whole list that says money required. It's in the little print too, but I made one big because I do this one on the computer in my office with them, but I also hand them one, and that I gave you all the handout one of that. And then I explain what this is. Money required. A lot of people feel that the only thing you ever hear about in buying a home is a down payment or closing costs, which are two totally different things. But there's other expenses that have to do with purchasing a home. And as we start this process, when I tell you we need to do this and it's going to cost this, you're not going, oh, I don't have $500 extra. You know, I explain to them, this is stuff you're going to need to know before we go and start looking at property. You're going to have this money because you're going to have, you just can't go through the process. Earnest money. A lot of people don't even have a clue what earnest money is, what it means. So I tell them it's like a deposit. Everybody knows what a deposit is. It's paid if the offer is acceptance. Once you've got it on the line that everybody's accepted the contract, we have X number of days to get that earnest money from our buyer and get it to the other agent so they can get it deposited. That's usually four days. Those are business days, banking days. It's credit at closing. It's usually anywhere from $500 to $1,000 on a first-time home buyer. Most of the time it's $500. $1,000 if they're at a foreclosure or corporate owned, most of the time, they're going to want $1,000. Earnest money needs to come out of their account. Cannot come out of mommy and daddy's account. Can't come out of somebody else's account. Has to come out of their account. If they do an FHA and the money comes out of mom and dad's account for $500, mom and dad's got to have an affidavit done that they are giving the $500 as gift money for that lender. That's something you have to tell them there. So it's best that they use their own $500 out of their own checking account. Problem we run into with the day and time that we're in, I am finding my clients under the age of 30 have no checks. Wouldn't know how to fill one out if they had one. So what you tell them, I cannot take cash, or I don't take cash. We can, but I don't. I tell them they have to go get a money order. This has to be in a form of a check. If you do not have a checking account, then you'll need to go down to your bank that you use your accounts and get. Well, some of them have banks that are online. They're not an actual physical bank. They're going to need to go down to somewhere, the post office, a drugstore, or a bank, and get a certified fund cashier's check. They have to have that for their earnest money. And it has to be shown that it came out of what account it came. They can't like go sell something and get a $500 check and then go down there and get cash. It don't work. The lender has to track. There's got to be a paper trail for that $500. The other thing that you're going to need is a home inspection. There's different types of inspections. A home inspection is a general inspection. He goes in and checks everything in the whole home, from cross space to roof. He does not do, some of the home inspectors on the roof only do it by binoculars. They don't walk on the roof. Some of them just do on heat and air. They go over to the vent with a little monitor and see what it's doing. They don't actually open the unit up. So I call two home as a general. That means he's just kind of giving us a basic idea of what's going on with the house. They're very good, very detailed. They are paid the day of the inspection at the latest. They will not go out there and do it and release it to us until it's paid for. That particular deal, if you have a family member that's wanting to help you, or a friend, or whatever, want to help them buy a home, they can pay for that, and there's nobody who cares who pays for that. So that's one, if they need some help, that's one that a parent or a friend or uncle, aunt, grandma, whoever wants to help them with the closing, they can pay for those. They'll run anywhere from $275, $375 for a general. And it's usually done by square footage, and then there's a minimum. So I got in your packet that I'll give you, it's got several numbers and names of people that are reputable in the area. You can choose any one you would like. These are ones I know that do a good job in the area and a lot of people trust. That's when I said, then there's called, everybody calls it a termite inspection. It's not truly just termites, it's wood destroying insect. That could be carpenter ants, that could be termites, that could be, I just had one that came in, had brown recluse on it. I didn't know they were wood burning, but they put it on the report. So my seller is treating for those spiders. But anyway, it could be several things. There's certain type of fungus that can be a wood eating, and that would show up on there. Not normal mold or anything. It's wood destroying is what that is. But the terminology everybody uses in the real estate world is called termite inspection. It's actually any wood destroying. Those are usually paid either, some, it depends on the termite company you use. Some of them will let you pay it at closing. Some of them will make you pay it the day of. There's some that charge $25 for them. When they charge you $25 for them, you got to pay for it that day. You can't pay for it later. So get a cheaper one, but you got to pay for it right up front. That's another item. Doesn't matter. The lenders care less who pays for that. So they can pay for it themselves. I have had sellers pay for those. It depends on what you negotiate in the contract. Most sellers will not pay for any of these types of inspections because they know these inspections may make them have to do things. So it's kind of useless to ask. I've had buyers ask me that. Now on a VA loan, the seller is required to. The VA loans, that's what they do. I usually tell them I would recommend to have the AC unit inspected by a licensed heating and air person, have it actually opened up and looked at, not just check the little monitor deal. They have to be paid every time, the day of or the day before that they do them. They'll run you anywhere from 75 to 150 or more, depending on how many units are there. You want them all checked. I've done this for several years, and I tell my buyers several times, and I've had how many buyers stand there going, Annette, I'm so glad you had me to do that. Home inspector always puts on there, well, it didn't pull quite like I thought, but you might have a professional do it. Why not have them all out there at the same time? I found them where they've had fuses, low and freon, leaks. I've had heat exchangers. Number one on gas units, heat exchangers are broken. That can be $2,000 or $3,000 to be repaired. You don't want to know that the minute you moved into a house. Also, I can help them negotiate if heating and air comes up and say the unit's 20 years old, has a broken heat exchanger. It's going to cost $15,000 to $2,000 to change that out. I may help that buyer negotiate with that seller that they'll split the cost of just taking that unit out and putting a brand new unit in, and make the check out for $2,000 to a heat and air unit company approved by that buyer, and just put a new unit in. It will save them in utilities over the years. So if you fix a $2,000 fix or a fan or anything like that, if you do 2 or 3 little deals on a 20-year-old furnace, all you're doing is putting Band-Aids on it. It's going to die, eventually here, because it's getting to that age. So we kind of talk about that when Also talking about radon, if they want one, a lot of the general home inspectors will do the radon test. We are in an area that is high radon. Radon comes out of that dirt right there all day long, all the time. It isn't always here. The problem is if it gets into a home and can't get out. So you can have it tested. We can't advise our clients to do it or not do it. We just tell them it's available for them, and we are considered a high radon area. And there's the cost about what they run. And again, it kind of regulates on who does it and the size of the home. Mold is paid usually the day of. Most of your general home inspectors can test for mold. Usually what I recommend, you do whatever you want to do, or your client wants to. I said, y'all can do whatever you want to do. My suggestion is if your general home inspector finds some mold, or your heat inspector found some mold, you might consider having a mold test done to make sure it's not everywhere. But if you have someone in your family that's highly allergic to mold, I would recommend one, even if you don't see any, and then no inspector sees it. Go ahead and have one done to make sure there's nothing hidden somewhere. Septic is paid the day of. I always recommend, I really strongly recommend, and if they don't, I make them sign 2 sheets of paper saying that I told them they needed to. If they're out in the county and it is on a septic system, not a step system, but an actual private septic system, they need to have a company like Ward's. There's one I use all the time, but there's several companies. They will come out, they actually dig up the deal, they look in, open it up and look in it. And they check your lines and make sure there's no ill stuff in there. Costs $200 to have it done. And I have had a lot of them, when they open them up, they're full. People don't pump them like they should. And I've had a couple of times I've had the seller there. I said, here, come here and look. Because, you know, the septic guy is standing there with the lid open. It smells great. It's full. You can see it. It's really disgusting. And he's wanting to stand there and talk about it and tell you that there's also the little pipe going in is broken, fallen off. The line that hooks it into the tank is slipped. The tank lid has got a crack in it and water is seeping into it. All kinds of things. And those can be anywhere from $300 fix to $3,000 to $10,000 fix. You don't want to move into a house in 2 or 3 weeks or a month after you move in, all your sewer backs up into your house. And then you got it, once it does that, then it's already started getting into the fill line. So guess what? Now you got to have that fixed, clean up that mess, clean up the tank, have the tank done, and then they're going to have to fix some of the lines. So it could be several $1,000s. I would rather have it checked right now. When you tell your buyer that, like, ooh, yeah. That's also something that anybody can pay for. The mold, anybody can pay for. Radon, anybody can pay. Heat and air. So if you got any parents or family, a lot of your first-time home buyers do have family or friends that are wanting to help them get into something. These are the things they can buy. I clicked one too many. This mouse is. Okay, I always tell them about the exit commission fee. It is paid at closing. It's not part of the lender's cost. It's not part of the down payment. Not part of the inspections, but it's a fee of $260 on every transaction. It is by our exit corporate. I said it is collected. It does help build habitat houses in the area, which we're going to do one, I think, in March, or start one here in Rutherford County in March. So there's quite a bit of money given to Habitat for Humanity through exit. Part of it comes from this. And then I tell them about the appraisal. Appraisal can be paid at closing, depending on your lender or the loan. They can also be paid at the time they do loan application. I have nothing to do with the appraisal. It is all with their lender. I tell them your lender will order it. It will come to your lender. Only time I know anything about it is if there's a problem on it, and then I know about it. Other than that, it's all lender deal. But so your lender will tell you if they collect it now or they're going to collect it at closing. It kind of depends on the loan. Lots of variables there. And then number 10, this is utilities on for inspections. This is in case if they decide to make an offer on a foreclosure, like Rusty's, If the utilities are not on, it's the responsibility of the buyer to have them turned on. It'll cost you anywhere $200, $300 to get all that done, because HUD charges you what? Do you winterize it?
Oh, 150.
150 that the buyer pays. They have it unwinterized and then re-winterized. And then on like a HUD, you have to tell HUD what 3 days you're going to do this. So during that 3 days, you as an agent have got to coordinate all the inspections, the appraisal, all in that 3-day period. And you got to give it to HUD in time that they can okay those 3 days. It's a lovely thing to juggle, but it can be done. So this tells them to be prepared. If you buy a foreclosure, that can happen. So, and anybody can pay those fees for me. That's another deal that nobody cares who pays it. But beware, that's only if you buy a foreclosure style home. And not all foreclosures you have to do that. Every HUD you do, but some of the foreclosures will turn the utilities on for you. I've had some that will turn the water and electric, the electric on for us and the gas, but would not allow us to turn the water on at all for the inspections. Well, there's a lot of things you look at water, so they got to be prepared for that. Okay, I tell them, I said, those are the items, and they're usually sitting there on a little sheet of paper I gave them, totaling these things up. I said, these are things that are extremely, extremely important to you as a buyer. The only ones that are going to be required by your lender is the termite, or this wood destroying one will be the only one they usually require. There are a few lenders that will require the septic if it's on septic. We'll ask for an inspection on that. The rest of the inspections, nobody really cares, which my thoughts, why wouldn't they care if the house was in good condition or not? So it's really for your protection. It would be better you to spend $1,000, $1,200 now than a month after you move into the house and you just bought all this new furniture and all this new stuff and you drained your bank accounts and the heat and air went out and it's going to be $5,000. What are we going to do now? We're going to be in a bind. So it's better to know it up front and what you're getting and have the seller to do those repairs so that you're not having to do it. Then I always talk about on the inspections, things that you would ask the seller. You don't ask the seller to fix something that is out of date unless it has to do with hazard or a code violation, like if they don't have smoke detectors in every one of the bedrooms, that's a code. That's a safety code. You would request them to put them in. The filter in the heat and air unit being dirty, you see that a lot in these sheets. That is not something we would necessarily ask the seller to do. You could. They probably have one somewhere in the house and just haven't thought to do it. A leaking faucet, you can have it repaired because that's going to cause a hazard problem. Electrical, structural. Sometimes you do a general home inspection, they may come in and say, there's a crack and we're concerned. They're always concerned if there's a crack, if it's a settlement or not. They always put the little clause because they don't want it on their back. You may have to order a structural person to go out. There is an American Structure I use a lot. He's $125 or something there. They will go out and check that for you and tell you if it's structural, if it's just normal settlement. And if you want it repaired, even if it's normal settlement, you can still put a repair. He'll give you a bid on doing that. But I told him, I said, I wouldn't know that until we got our general home inspection, or if we seen it when we were looking at the house. If we're out walking around the house and we got a couple of cracks here and there, we may go, okay, I need to put that on the checklist. We need to probably have him come out and look also. Because if something's wrong, I had one a while ago that the door wouldn't shut between the garage and the house real well. And there was a little hairline crack there. So we had it, American Structure go out. It was an $1,800 repair to get done, not counting the painting after they did it. It had a support beam that was something that had fallen and was laying sideways, so they had to redo the pier. Seller paid for it. My buyer didn't have to. So that's why I encourage those things. Then I talked to them, there's another little handout in your, there's a couple of handouts I'm going to cover in your, that one packet of handouts, not the little slide one, but the other packet. They'll go things you need for your lender, or required by your lender. If they hadn't been to a lender, I always show them this list. And I said, there's a reason why we want you pre-qualified before we start looking at homes. Benefits, you know that the home you're looking at is the right homes, are you going to be able to qualify for, you're comfortable with the payment. You know how much the down payment's going to be. We save money and we're dealing with the seller because I've got a letter that I can prove that you've already been to the loan. And right now with all these multiple offer situations, if there's 5 offers on the table and 3 of them have a letter that's already been to the bank and 2 doesn't, guess what that seller's going to do? The 2 doesn't, make sure they're not cash. If they're a loan, they go to the side. They don't care about them. These people are in the bank. It also tells us what type of loan that they're going, because some homes will not go VA. Some homes won't go rural housing. Most homes will go, but anything will go conventional. Then FHA, there are a few things that might it's pretty, most homes around here go FHA. So I need to know what type of loans. I have to tell the selling agent what loan we're going. So those are important things I have to know to make an offer for their buyer. Usually we close quicker because you've already been, all your paperwork's already at the bank. And you'll know amount for closing costs. And why I want to know this, some first-time home buyers get 100% financing and they're thinking, wow, I don't have to bring any money. You still have closing costs. It's just whether or not we ask the seller to pay them or they pay them themselves. Say they already have the $5,000 to make that down payment. And I said, well, you know, that's great. We don't have to ask for the closing costs. That makes a stronger offer when we're making an offer to someone. But what if you need a fence because you've got 3 dogs? The house that you fell in love with, guess what? Does not have a fence. So what we might can do is ask the seller to pay the $5,000 of your closing costs because you've got that $5,000 sitting there. After you move in, take that $5,000 and put you a fence. And they're like, oh, yeah, I could do that. So that tells us that helps me make, you know, better negotiations and know what we're going into when we negotiate. Or they have those hot pink countertops. I have seen them with the hot pink tub and the hot pink sink and the pink carpet and the pink walls. The house was dipped in Pepto-Bismol. You know, but they love the layout. They're going to have to redo all that. So they may need to know if they have any money or help with the negotiating on that. I give them that sheet that says what they need to get to their lender. I said, now those sheets are for everybody. Some of that stuff will not apply to you, but anything that applies to you that you would have on that list, go ahead and take it with you when you meet with them the first time, because that will speed the process up. Also, there's another little form there that I've got. It's a handout. I don't have a slide for it. It's called the 10 Commandments of Your Loan. And I don't have one with me, so I can't read them. Yeah, that. It's the 10 Commandments of applying for your loan or your mortgage. Yeah, that, you can keep it. Y'all can read through it. And what I did, I always go over this and I read every single line in it. And I said, not only is this for applying for the mortgage, these are the 10 things thou shalt not do between now and the time we close on this house. Please do not do any of these items unless you call your lender and get permission to do it. I have had people get so excited about a new house, they went down to the furniture store, bought a whole house of furniture, but we don't have to pay for it till 2020. Well, their lender doesn't care. Now they have a house full of furniture with no home to go to because that got them out of their ratios of their debt-income ratio. So now they have this great furniture with nowhere to go. I've also had people that went, well, I'm going to probably need a truck to move. So they go trade their car in that's paid for and buy a truck. We have a truck payment now. Well, now we have a truck to move our furniture in a home that we can't buy. Because now we're going to live in our truck because we just messed up our ratios. I got mad at my boss today and I just walked out. That's great. Now you don't have a home either because guess what? You can't change jobs. You have to stay with the same company. Now, if you're in a company and you get a promotion within that company during the time, as long as it's for the same company, you're okay. Just don't change companies. So if you're getting this awesome offer from this other company to get a big raise and big promotion and all this, call your lender before you accept it. Or you can accept it and say, but I can't start working until after whatever your closing date is. You can start with them the day after closing. Your lender will, a lot of them will check, verify your employment, or at least by a phone call, and run your credit report the morning of closing. Things happen. So don't open any new accounts. Don't go down to Lowe's and Home Depot and go, okay, we're going to do all this stuff after we close. And say you open an account. Hadn't charged anything, but you got a line of credit. The loan officer can probably, the underwriter might turn you down on your loan because you may apply for a credit card. So those are the reasons I said why those are really kind of a cute and funny way of saying it. Those things are so true. Do not do these things. Don't change banks. Don't open new accounts. It all affects your lending. Also, which is not on the 10 there, I don't think, on your credit cards, I tell them, keep all of your credit cards. If your credit card has a $10,000 credit limit, keep it under $4,500 on that account. Do not go 1 penny over the halfway mark. It'll lower your credit score a whole point. I've had that happen. They went down and bought all their appliances. And it made their credit card go up over $1 over the halfway mark, lowered their credit score a point, and they got turned down for their loan. So don't make any new credit. Don't add any more credit to your current credit cards. I just tell them that you just don't do it. So and if you do anything and you're thinking about doing it, always call and run it by your loan officer first. Make sure it's not going to mess you up. So that's the reason I do that. And sometimes I go over this again, but then I have the sheet for you guys. I'm not going to go over in detail. Then I talked about searching for properties. We tour online at the office. We select the possible comparative properties that we're looking through the listings. We go here, we sit here, we look at the pictures, and we kind of see what we think we want to do to start out. Then we set up the appointments and we view the properties. Now, I try to use our time wisely with appointments and homes. I only want to show them homes that they're interested in. And then you will have you have the two personalities. One wants to just look at everything in the world and then some. And the other one's like, let's just talk the top few. You'll watch the top few and you will have to do a couple of those for her or him, whoever that other person. And it's not always the woman, sometimes it's the guy. You may have to go show some that you know good well before you make the appointment, before you go out there. It ain't going to work because they're going to mix it. But, again, we're back to listening what they're wanting us to do. I always tell them about the internet. Superhighway. Great. We're all on it. We always do it. That's where we all look. We look, you look, everybody looks. The multi-listing service is a public service. There are companies such as Zillow, Realtor.com, Trulia, blah, 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 blah names. I always tell the buyers, you're welcome to look on those places. But I'm telling you, when you call me or shoot me an email, hey man, I saw this one on da-da-da-da-da, I'll go, I'll look and check on it. I would say 95% of the time, the house had sold and it's still on there active. I've had homes I've sold and closed them out on there, and a week later they pop back up for some odd reason that they're active. The Zillow estimates are not accurate. The Trulias, the Realty.com is probably the closest to being accurate, but it's still not very accurate. I usually tell them I'll sign you up on an app. We all have access to HomeSnap Pro. You can sign the people up. And I tell them, I have a lot of clients that love that, especially new buyers because they're out driving. They can take a picture of a house, and if it's on the market, they'll tell them all the information about it, tell them if it's on the market. They'll tell them if it's under contract. They'll do a lot of stuff to tell them a lot of things. I said, so I don't mind you sending them to me, but when I call and text, when I email you back and say, no, that one's not really available, I'm telling you the truth. And I'm usually, when I'm sitting there and we're looking at the houses online, I can show them what I'm talking about. So I kind of explain that internet world. Yes, it's great, but nobody checks anybody for accuracy. And if you do find it, there's nobody to contact to fix it, because I've tried. So then I just list my personal one, which is connected to my Boomtown account. But I also now hook them up while I'm sitting there. I hook them up on HomeSnap Pro, so it catches them. And I can see what they're looking at. Then I list like a bunch of the different websites they can find homes on. This is another slide that I spend quite a bit of time on. A lot of people do not realize it. There are three, really kind of four, types of insurance during the real estate process. A lot of people hear the word PMI. Some people know what that means. Some have no idea what it does, but they know they have it, but they don't know what it means. A PMI is a mortgage insurance. That's a private insurer company that insures lending institutions against the risk and loss event borrower defaults. In your folder that I gave you, there is a more detail about what that is. Just to let you know, what it does is, like you see, HUD foreclosures are FHA loans that had defaulted and the lender collected their insurance on it and gave it to them. So they didn't take a full loss. Fannie Mae.
Is that what caused the collapse of a lot of banks? When they sold off insurance?
Some of it is and some of it's not. Some of it was just straight up mortgage fraud that was happening. Yeah. So, but anyway, I let them know, I said, you will have that if you don't put 20% down on your loan. You most likely, there will be a PMI, or you're going to pay it up front. If it's not a PMI, there's going to be a larger origination type fee. It's going to be somewhere or another that lender's going to be protected. The insurance company usually gives them 80% of the loan value that was loaned on it. And then I usually ask them if there's any questions about it. On that one, they usually go, hey, okay. I said, I also said, you cannot get a loan, you know, unless there's one of those or somehow it's paid, or unless you put 20% down. Now, if you have PMI mortgage insurance, once you have paid 20% of your loan down, you can notify your bank and they will drop that. It's, you know, it depends on the loan amount, what the amount is. It could be $50, $60, $70, $80, $90, $100 a month on their payment is that PMI. The other type of insurance is called homeowners. A lot of people call it hazard insurance, one and the same. I've got a little bit of paper in their book about it. It protects against fire, storm damage, doesn't do flood unless you buy the flood insurance, and that's done by the federal government. You buy it through a local insurance agent, but it's issued by the federal government. It's very, very expensive. It can run anywhere from, if it's like I had a house, the corner of the garage had 4 inches in the floodplain, cost them $680 a year. I mean, $680 a year for flood insurance because 4 inches in the back corner of the garage fit in the flood zone. But normally it runs right around $3,000 to $3,300 a year on top of your other homeowners insurance. So, government deal. Anyway, so you have to have homeowners. If you have a mortgage on the property, you are required by that lender, whoever holds your mortgage, to have homeowners insurance. So it's not something you can get away from. It'll cost about $650 to $850 a year. It is part of their payment. Most mortgage companies collect it each month, so that the homeowner does not have to worry about paying it every month. Then the other type, it's actually 2 parts. It's title insurance. There is a lender coverage and an owner's coverage. Lenders, it covers the ownership of that property. There's also something in their folder from that'll talk about this title insurance. What it does is the title is the ownership, liens on the property. bills that may have been built into that property, disputes on family member disputes, different things like that, it covers it. Lenders will not close without it. State of Tennessee says it's not necessary, it's not required, but you can purchase it. It's a very, very, very good idea to have it. I know Melinda had one, was it last year you had the one that the ex-wife from the house,
Oh, yeah.
their people, 2 years, her people were buying a home, and the people that was selling it to her buyer, the people that sold it to them had an ex-wife that wasn't notified that the house was sold. She wanted her money.
She wanted the house back.
She wanted the house back. And so luckily, all of those people had owner's policy, so all of the insurance companies had to get together and settle it. They couldn't close, they delayed their closing a few weeks, but it still closed. Because they had, but if her clients, the people that they were buying, if those people had not got owner's policy, they would not have been able to close that home until they got an attorney and went to court and fought that lady to try to get the ownership of that house. Lender did, they don't go after the lender, because the lender had policy, so they're gonna look for anyone that didn't get an insurance policy on it, and that's who they're going after. I've had people that didn't get to the closing. I didn't sell them the house, but I was selling it again. Got to closing and had to pay a $1,200 lien off that was missed because they didn't have owner's policy. If they had an owner's policy, guess what? That title company would have paid that. They couldn't sell the house unless they paid it. So it
I
can
haven't
happen.
been asked if you're a landlord or not, I just tell them this is part of your fees.
Yeah, I mean, it's, in case they hear
It
that
never
you can't.
fails, if you don't do it, it's going.
It's not a smart deal. It's another one of those deals, if they don't do it, they're gonna sign an extra sheet of paper with me that says, I told you you need this. So when later, years down the road, somebody comes and knocks on their door, then they call me. And I'm like, I'll pull the file and go, yeah, I told you you should get this, and here's where I told you, and here's where you signed that I know, you knew that I told you. Because these things can happen, and they happen more than what people think. Anyway, but that's what the different title is for, the ownership, and in their packet, I've got a more detailed in that to explain it more. And then I usually ask them if they have a question. And if I don't know the answer, I'll tell them, I say, well, let's write that down, and I'll have them call stirrup title or memorial title. Then I discuss the type of offer to make when we get ready to make an offer. I also discuss what do we do if it's in a multiple offer situation, how to make that offer, maybe to make us look better. I know Melinda was talking the other day at sales meeting about some of the ways they're getting more creative on helping us make better multiple offers. I'll talk about if you decide on a house that's a foreclosed property, I'll talk to them. So I said, we'll discuss, the problems that you'll run into, how the inspections and kind of the fees and what kind of stuff we want to do on it. Then I just kind of go over inspection again, and you notice I go over this more than once, and it's because how important it is. Talk a little, I told them in the beginning, we talk about it a little more thoroughly. I talk a little bit about the appraisal. Property misappraised for the contract price. And I always tell them, I said, just because it appraises for $500 more than what you paid for it, doesn't mean it might not be worth more, but their job is to make sure it's worth at least what your contract is. Then I talked to them a little bit about if the appraisal doesn't come in and it's short, what are we going to do now? And then I talk about we have to renegotiate with that seller. Sometimes we talk to the appraiser, sometimes we talk to the lender. It creates a problem. And we talk a little bit about that. That's a whole nother class to deal with that. But just to let them know that there's, if that arises, we'll have to deal with renegotiating at that point. Doesn't mean, I was telling them, they go, could someone could buy it out from under me? No, you're still under contract with these people. We just have to renegotiate something fair, how we're going to make this work. We may be adjusting the price. We may not be paying as much closing, or we may, we'll figure it out if we can. If not, the seller does not have to necessarily come down to the price it appraises. Then yes, you would lose the house at that point. You get your earnest money back, but if they won't come down and you can't come up with a difference, then we're going to stand still. But usually we are able to work it out somehow or another. Everybody in the whole transaction gives a little, makes it work. It can be done. Then I talk about closing day. The lender will look over the closing statement, which we call the HUD, you hear it called that a lot, or the CD now, it's called closing document or closing disclosure. We make it in advance, the figures are correct. Your lender will go over the figures with you, and I will, if you give me permission to view them. And I always stress again, it's really good for you to do that because somebody in the world back in last year felt like us agents didn't need to see the closing deal, but yet we're the ones that usually caught the most mistakes. We're the ones that wrote the contracts. We know if something's missing or it's got the wrong dollar amount. I've had them put the wrong sales price on it. You know, if we didn't see it, then if they've already signed the closing CD, the closing disclosure, we gotta wait 3 days. If that's a problem, guess what? They fix it, then we wait 3 more days. And if it's a Friday, you're gonna wait till Monday, or if it's a Monday's a holiday, you're gonna wait till Tuesday or Wednesday. So it is important for us to view it. And then I talk again about bringing a cashier's check to the closing. It needs to be made out to the closing company if they have to bring money to closing. A lot of first-time home buyers do not take money to the table. A lot of times they'll get a check at closing. I always laugh at closing going, hey, everybody got a check. So, but a lot of times they'll get their earnest money almost back because we got the seller paying all the closing costs. You know, so then a lot of times they'll get some of it back. So first-time home buyers, a lot of times won't have, but if you got a second home buyer that's selling another home somewhere and coming here, and you're going to just kind of, you know, we kind of still do this even if they've bought a home not in the last few years. We go through it a whole lot faster because I don't have to spend as much time on each little section of it. I do more of the other stuff. Then I talk about possession. This gets to be kind of tricky. And I always tell myself, this is a little tricky, and I try my best to make it as easy as possible, but I can't, you know, we've got several parties, especially if you've got back-to-back dominoes closing, and somebody's domino wobbles, it kind of messes us up. I try to always close all my loans on a Wednesday or Thursday. And they'll go, but we like to close on Friday because we're going to be off work, you know, for the weekend. Okay, we're going to move into this house on the weekend. Let's close Wednesday or Thursday, and this is why. Once everybody has signed, we usually close it separate title companies, very common nowadays. Funds from this house to this house is wired up in the La La Land. Sometimes they get stuck up there, and it don't hit until the next morning.
Or a lightning strike.
Or a lightning strike, the whole computer system goes down. It has been sent in time. Somebody had a bad storm. It's still hanging, but it hasn't hit the seller's bank account, or they haven't got a check in hand. The home is not closed, technically, until that seller has received their check. So if you close and try to close on a Friday, and it doesn't hit by Friday, 2 or 3 o'clock, they're not going to get their money till Monday. Or if Monday is a holiday, they're not going to get their money till Tuesday. So guess what? You don't get the keys until their check is there. So that's why I like to close on a Wednesday or Thursday. If we close on it, you don't have to move in that day. You can move in Friday night, Saturday. But we need to close just in case we have a glitch with the wire. You can get it before the weekend's out. And so you can still move in on the weekend. So I kind of explain that to them. And as a listing agent, it's very, very frustrating. And Bob hates it because he gets a phone call. Some agent gave somebody a key before the seller got their money. And they're moving in. And the seller has not been paid yet. Seller not happy. Calling everybody, calling the police, calling the sheriff's department, everybody. They're trespassing on my land. If you're a HUD, it's a federal offense. You start moving in before HUD receives their funds. So sometimes with the electronic world we live in, it gets stuck in La La Land and it doesn't hit.
And that was the same with the lightning strike.
Yeah, and she had a lightning strike one too. So,
I mean, that was the same one, the police called.
yeah, she had one of those. Bob's like, I can't go kick them out, I'm sorry. It wasn't my agent that did it. Well, why did she give the other agent the key? She didn't. The other agent, when they did their walkthrough, took the key out of the box and took it home with them and gave it to the buyer at the closing table. Just because it is signed and the buyer has handed their money over, it is still not technically closed until the seller has received funds. So I really stressed that to my buyers because they already got their trucks loaded, they're ready to roll, they want to leave closing and run and get into the house. And I tell them, remember what I told you. When the monies are all signed, it's when the seller, I get the call that the seller has received their funds. And they're like, oh, okay, but you remind them again at the end. Also, I always tell them at closing, ask them, so it's during the process, I have another form once we're under contract, I have another list of things like them doing their utilities over, get the homeowner's insurance, I've got a little sheet, I didn't bring it, but it's a little sheet, once we're under contract with that buyer, of things I need them to do. Like our inspections now, I've got the checklist. And I always remind them at closing, did you remember, unless they've already told you, change all your utilities over. House does not come with free utilities for the rest of your ownership. I've had people that 6 months after they closed on the house, on some of my husband's new construction, hadn't changed over their utilities. So finally, I just shut them off 3 days after they close. It's amazing how fast they can get it done then. We used to be, a little bit, and I take the utility bill over to them to pay it every month. And I'm like, really? So just remind them of that and kind of stress it and kind of talk about these kind of things throughout the process. And then that's my whole deal. Then I've got another little handout in there. It's called Buyer Survival Kit. And this is something I use my little totes with. Juanita had some totes she was giving away at sales meeting, but you can buy these from the front office too. I think they're 25, 50 cents. I buy them 1,000 at a time, so I really don't remember how much they are each. Because I use them for all kinds of stuff. I give my buyer one of our exit totes before we leave to go out to show property. The day we meet and we're getting ready to head out, I give them this. There's a little deal in there. It's called Buyer Survival Kit. It explains what all this stuff in here is. We have a fly swatter, a couple of them. I have a brown paper bag on there in case anybody hyperventilates from excitement. If it's a rainy day, we have shoe covers. And if I have more than one client, we have more than one set of these. You can buy these on Amazon. This box I got, I ran out one day and I needed them, so I went to Home Depot. These are painted ones, but you can get like the kind of blue ones like the surgical people use at hospitals and stuff. They're pretty cheap. You buy them from Amazon. Scratch pad, in case you might need to write something down. Tylenol. I buy these, I'm out of these. I've got to go find some. Ring pops, a little pacifier ring pops. In case anybody's whining. You need some life saving. If you get teared up because it's so excited about this is the one. Sanitizer for those nasty places we're never going to buy. Like Rusty's house.
Thank you.
Kids need a bigger jar.
Yeah.
Oh.
I put a rubber band in here, and on that little sheet it'll say, to remind you to be very flexible. This is a tough deal. Pack of extra gum to remind you I do go the extra mile. Highlighter to highlight your notes on your sheets, because I give them a folder with all the listings in it in a little folder like that. A pen to write on your notes. Paper clip to hold your stuff together. And so I would throw some either I have Thin Mints, Tootsie Rolls, Kisses. Well, I use Tootsie Rolls a lot because they don't melt when you eat as bad. And I got chocolate if anything else didn't work. Always works. That's my little deal I hand them before we go out. And I put, if I've got however many clients are with me, I put that many water bottles in the deal. And then we have, and I guess I just went and bought some. I put a pack of either Oreo cookies, a pack of cheese crackers. I don't do peanut because there's so many people allergic to peanuts, but I put the cheese cracker, like the little packets that has like 4 or 5 little cheese crackers in it. I throw that in there, and sometimes we'll throw a little bag of chips in there. I put some energy bars in there before. If you got a long day, I throw some drinks and some snacks in there. If we have children that ride with us also, I have I give them a color book and some Crayolas in there, and try to keep up with the Crayolas, because if they live in your car, they make a mess, because they melt. You can use marker, you can also use washable markers or colored pencils. Colored pencils work real good too. In their closing gift, I put Crayolas, because I don't really care. But but give them something to do, and it's like everybody's getting something, but they're not, so I kind of give them that. Anything else that I might have, like the water bottles, I put some of those koozies on them sometimes I've got some from Memorial Tile, some from the insurance companies. They're always bringing them in here to us. And usually after everybody leaves with a bunch laying here, I gather them up and take them to my office, because I use them in these bags with my buyers. Their insurance companies, lenders, whatever, they come to us because they want us to market them stuff them. So you can do that. You can buy your own if you'd like. That's just kind of the things that I do for my buyers when I start. Then usually once I have finished this, I say, well, you ready to start? And so yeah, so let's call and get your, lender set up. I said, but while you're talking to the lender, I'm gonna go ahead and, do you want me as your agent? Oh, yeah. Okay, while you're talking to your lender, I'm gonna go ahead and pull up the contract. And I get my buyer's agency agreement, I fill it all out while they're talking to the lender. As soon as I get done with the lender, I say, okay, we're ready, got that appointment set. Great. Okay, here, I'm gonna email you our buyer's agreement, I need you to sign this, and then we'll get on it. And they go, okay, and they sit there with their little phones, and they sign it, and we go on. I never have a problem with them signing my buyer agency agreement. Never had any problem with it. A lot of people, oh, I just don't know, I'm still nervous. It's just the process, and they understand the process. But I do have them, if they haven't met with the lender, they go and make the appointment while they're sitting in my office or in the conference room or wherever I meet with them. They sign up, get an appointment set. Because if you leave it to them and give them a bunch of names to call, it'll take them weeks to set up an appointment. And then but while you got them there, get it set up for someone. So, any questions?
Do you ever go with them to a lender?
I ask them if they want me to, I'll go. I tell them, I said, if you want me to go, I don't mind going with you to the lender. I said, but usually I don't really, that's a lot of personal information that they're going to discuss with you that I don't need to know. There are agents that want to get them truly pre-qualified, that's how we were taught years ago. You get your people qualified before you do anything and get them to, I take them straight to the lender. I don't care what they make, I don't care where they work, I don't care where they get their money. I care less. All I want to know, how much can you spend? What type of loan are you going, and do you need closing costs? If so, how much? And where do you want to live? That's all I really need to do. So I tell them, I said, I can go with you if you want me to. I'm not a lot of help because I'm not a lender. Even if I knew all that information, I couldn't do anything with it. So I said, but you're welcome. If you want me to be there, you're more comfortable with me being there, yes, I'm happy to do it. And a lot of them will go, nah. But I've had, through the years, I've had 3 or 4 that were, usually they were people that were more family, friends of the family. I've had some people that were past clients that their kids, that referred to me, asked me to go because their parents weren't able to go with them. Like I told them, I said, they're dealing with a lot of private issues when it comes to your lending and finances and your credit report and all that. That's so personal and I don't really need to know that. All I need to know is, what can you spend? What do you want to spend? What type of loan? How much money do we need as a closing cost, or we're going to need to sell it to help pay the closing? Those are the only things I really need. And so I told him, I said, we're not going to look at the first house until you're done with your lender. You can look online and get started, and I'll go ahead and, as soon as your lender tells you what we can qualify for, then I'll set you up on that search, and then I'll send you an automatic search every day, and then I'll look myself in between the times that they'll hit. So you can always ask them if you want me to go, I will. It's not necessary for me to go, but if you feel more comfortable, if you're scared and want me to go, I can go with you. So, anything else? Anybody else?
Annette,
Uh-huh.
on let's see, page 4, it talks about what can I provide as a buyer without becoming the agent. You have all that.
Mhm.
And then you have the stuff that, okay, if you, the way it's implying is that, that if you sign the buyer agreement, then I can do these other things
Right.
for you as well.
Right.
So what you're saying is that I wouldn't be able to negotiate with a for sale by owner for you if I didn't.
If I'm not signed up as their agent, I'm not going to.
Okay, all right,
Because number one, if that for sale by owner won't pay me, that buyer's gonna have to pay me.
okay, all right. And then, yeah, you're not gonna talk about lenders and share contact information about that.
Not if I'm not their agent. They
Okay.
can just go get whoever they want. Or they still can go anywhere they want, but if they're having a problem with it, I'm not able to go in and, if they go to a lender that I recommend that I know is a reliable, don't rip people off people, and we're having a glitch, I can walk into that office and talk to that lender and go, what is the problem here? You know, where if it's somebody I don't know, I can't do that for them.
Okay.
And if I'm not their agent, I'm not gonna take that extra time out of my day to go over and fight on their behalf if, you know, I'm not their I'm not signed up as an agent.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. When you close, who notifies you that the seller has received their funds?
I usually call the agent and ask. The listing agent will know if their seller will release. Usually I do it by text and email. A lot of times I do it by text. I want a paper trail if they say I can release the key to my buyer. I want it in writing from that other agent that they said that the seller has given permission to give the buyer the key. I like doing it by text. Most agents text, so, and the reason I do that is I save those texts. So if a seller happens to drive by and my buyer is moving in now and they say, well, who gave you the key? Well, my agent did. I'm like, well, I have a text that your agent said that you said it was okay. My agent didn't say anything to me. Well, then you're gonna have to get with your agent because here's my proof. So it kind of helps cover my back. So do it by text. That's how I do it. And I just keep texting them like every half hour. It's usually the two title companies will communicate and they'll tell me.
That's what I was wondering, if you.
A lot of
contact
times-
the title company or, you know.
Holly and Cindy over there, I'll ask them, I said, can you check with the other company, see if they've received the funds? Or let me know when they've received the funds. They usually know because they get checks too, you know, to pay a few things and pay us and they get their check. So they usually know, but usually if they tell me that it's happened, then I text the other agent, is it okay to give my buyers the key? And sometimes I've had when it was a vacant home and the seller is living out of state, they'll go ahead and give them permission at the time that it's it's signed before the funds hit because it's gonna have to be wired also out of state. But you gotta get permission. Do not ever, 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 ever give a key to a buyer until the seller agent has told you you can. Bob preaches that very, very heavy because he does not like those phone calls. And we don't want to be that known to do that in this company. I've had them give out keys. I've caught people in the night, 2 days before closing, hanging blinds in our new construction homes, and their kids running through the house kicking walls while they're doing it. Well, it's their house, they think, oh no, it's not. It is not your house for 2 more days. And then they want us to touch up the scuffs on the wall for final walkthrough. And I'm like, no, your kid was in here doing that last night, or night before last. No, he wasn't either. He wasn't there. So we don't, But we say, hey, well, how did you get in? Oh, my agent gave me the code. No, you don't. There are agents that do that. Rusty probably has more trouble with it than any of us.
Yeah.
They'll give them the HUD,
Okay.
a HUD key. No, just use my key and go over there.
Or find a window.
Yeah, they'll find a window and crawl through it. No, that's breaking and entering. That's a law. There's laws against that. You do not own this property. So you don't have permission to be in the home. You have to make an appointment. So any other questions?
Well, while we preach that a lot here, I know that other companies do not. So even as a listing agent, you might want to reiterate to the buyer's agent, you may take the key out of the box, but you are not to give that key to your buyer until we have funds cleared.
No, but our people's in a truck. Our people are sitting there waiting. I said, I'm sorry.
And
We've
I've
not
had
received our money.
that
Well, that's
they-
not being fair. Excuse me. This is the way the rules are. They get all in a tizzy.
I've had it where if I didn't feel comfortable that that agent was going to do that, I've taken the key out of the box and told them I would.
And met with them. I meet them sometimes over at their final walkthrough. I'll be there to give them the key, let them in, and then I take the key.
Yeah, get burned once. You won't get burned again.
So, yeah, it's, a lot of agents are not, like that's no big deal. It is a big, big deal. So.
Great class, excellent.
Good
job.